If you've decided on the obvious benefits of keeping your boat in a marina, how do you go about choosing which one? What sort of issues need consideration? Marinas vary a lot, and the right decision depends entirely on what sort of experience you want to have. Maybe you're all for the quiet life and some peaceful scenery. Perhaps you need DIY options, or you might hanker after the action with loads of bustle and boats racing about all over the show, like here on the Solent. It can get a bit mad sometimes, but lots of folks love it.
We're at Mercury Marina now, halfway up the Hamble River. A completely different atmosphere, and it raises some interesting questions about which marina you ought to be choosing, from the many that are available. This marina is a whole lot quieter than the ones down nearer to the entrance of the river. Those have a metropolitan feel, they're full of bustle. Up here, well, it's gentler somehow. You're further from the sea. That may not bother you. It wouldn't bother me at all. I don't mind. I used to keep my boat in a marina that was half an hour from the West Solent up a river. It didn't bother me. I liked it. So there's probably no problem for you, but it might be. And if it is, if you want to rush straight out, this probably isn't for you. There are some other aspects to it as well. There's a great big car park here, and that is just terrific because very often I'm sailing of a weekend and a couple of mates will come down. They'll bring 2 cars, and there's my car as well. So that's 3 cars. No problem here, you just pile them in. There's plenty of room for everybody. Other marinas, it might be an issue. There might be a berth for your car if you flash your ticket, but maybe your mates are going to have to pay. Well, they're not going to like that, are they? And you don't want to have to pay for them, so that might be a problem for you. Here's another thing. Up here, you're probably quarter of an hour, 20 minutes walk from Hamble Village. It's a bit of a hike. So if you don't feel like a bit of a hike, you're better off in Port Hamble, because there you can just walk up the hill, round the corner, and you're straight into the action. So there you go. These are all things that you have to consider. It's not just a question of finding a berth that's got room for your boat. I think it's rather exciting. Here is a completely different marina. This one is in the centre of town. It's surrounded by restaurants, little businesses, a very, very convenient place. You've got car parking, you've got facilities, you've got all you need really. You're at the top of Southampton Water, so you've a little way to go down to get to the Solent, but it's not unpleasant. So for a lot of people, that would suit them quite well. Something else about this place is that there is absolutely no surge of any sort. No sea can get in here because it's miles from the Solent, miles from the English Channel, and also it's got quite a narrow entrance because it was a big ship dock. So there's no tidal current in here either. So if you're a little bit nervous about handling your boat, or she's a bit awkward, well, this might be the place for you. Also, it can be blowing old boots outside, and there's great big buildings all over the place here. They cut the wind up, so you're unlikely to meet a brick wall of wind blasting you off the dock just when you're trying to get on. So from the boat handling point of view, it's got a great deal going for it. And although it's at the top of Southampton Water, this marina has got all tide access. But you want to check, because not everyone does, and certainly as you spread out and go to different parts of the country and across into the continent, quite a lot of marinas don't, particularly in northern France. So if that's a problem for you, make sure that you've got what you need. I once sailed a boat off a mud berth at the top of the Hamble River, and it was cheap as chips, and I liked it. There was a good crowd of people up there, but I could only sail at or very near high water. But it wasn't so bad, you know, really. You got into the rhythm of the moon and the planet, and you got off your berth at the top of the tide, your boat floated out and let go your lines, unplug yourself, and away you go. Have a lovely day or a lovely 2 days, however long it was going to be, and then to come back, you had to time your arrival so that you came back with the flood tide. So the flood carried you all the way back, it carried you up the river, and you slotted into your berth, poured yourself a drink and waited for the water to go away, and you settled down onto the mud with no worries at all. So check your tidal access. Unlikely to be a problem, but if it is and it's there, make sure if it matters to you. It's very early in the season, so there's a surprising number of free berths at Port Hamble at the moment, and I'm just walking down this one, enjoying the sheer stability of it. When you're choosing a place to keep your boat, it's really important to look at the quality of the actual berth, the thing you're going to be tying your boat up to. Very often, finger berths are short, mean, and hardly stable. If you take your boat to France ever and you jump up onto one of those little Marina berths, you jump in, the thing goes in practically so you're up to your ankles in water and then comes up again and you're teetering to keep your balance. Well, it's not like that here. This is really solid. It's got plenty of cleats so you can tie your boat up as you wish. It's a proper job, quite honestly, and it's a rarity. So if you're looking for a berth for your boat, make sure you find one that suits you. When you're looking for a marina, it's good to bear in mind that some of them are actually quite specialist establishments. This one in the middle of Southampton, for example, is absolutely brilliant if you're lucky enough to have a super yacht. We've got a 200-ton lift here that'll lift just about anything on the water that's for leisure. Right behind me, there's a dry stack. If you're somebody who enjoys powering around the place in a rib, what fun that is, and it's great. You can get across the Isle of Wight for lunch, you can even go to France in a rib if you know what you're about. Wonderful things. And you don't want to have the hassle of painting the bottom, worrying about whether there's weed growing. What are you going to do with your propellers? If it's blowing hard in the winter on a nasty night and the boat's in a marina berth and it's snubbing around and you're lying in your bed and you can't get to sleep because you're worrying about your rib, well, put it on a dry stack and forget it. It's terrific. When you want to go on a trip, you ring them up when you're in the car on your way down here, they put the boat in and you're sorted. You get on board, it's perfectly clean, it'll perform wonderfully, the props are clean, everything's great. Come back, hand it over to them and it goes back in the dry stack. And next time it's blowing hard in the middle of the night, you can turn over and go to sleep, knowing that all is well. If you've bought a brand new boat in a boat show, all sparkling and lovely and new with everything working and all singing, all dancing, you probably don't need much work done on it in the first few winters. But if, like me and most of us, you're into the second-hand market and you're buying boats that have been around the block a few times, there's going to be things to do. There's always things to do on boats. If you've got a lot to do, you might find it really helps to find a marina that's very work-friendly. And some of these marinas have got really fantastic facilities for doing that. I'm in a marina at the moment that's got boats parked all over the place. There's people crawling on and off boats doing work. There's a surveyor on the boat next door. It's all happening here. And the marina's set up for that. It's got a proper marina too, so you can keep your boat here if you want, and that's great. But what I love about it is the ability to get things done. And there's little businesses all over the place. We've got little offices, little workshops. I had a cover made in a marina like this once that was perfect, and the guy's become my cover maker. That was years and years and years ago. But we've stuck together because he does great work, and I found him in a marina like this. So you might like to consider that. Some of the marinas down hard by the water aren't quite so useful as this for getting stuff done. You can have things done. You'll probably find in a yard like this that they have their own staff who can do nearly all the jobs. But an independent contractor can be very useful sometimes, a specialist who can do what you want him to do, or perhaps somebody who you've worked with for years and who you really trust. Now, some marinas won't let those guys in. Others will, and you need to make sure you know where you stand on that sort of thing, because it can make all the difference. If you're going to come out for the winter, you might give some thought to what the substrate's going to be that your boat's standing on. What we've got here is lovely, clean concrete. I love that. Over on the other side, there's some gravel hard standing, which it's all right, it's quite safe, but it gets in your deck shoes. And if you're working on the boat a lot, you're up and down the ladder. Every time you go up, you get a deck shoe full of gravel. And you can't get rid of it. You can have a little mat to wipe your feet on, but it never really works. So there's a lot to be said for a place that's got clean, hard standing. Well, it's a windy old day, sitting here in front of the Harbour Master's office, and it makes me think that one of the things Harbour Masters can do for us all is give us a 5-day forecast. They can download it off the internet, print it out and put it up in the window. And that's great, because if you haven't got internet on board the boat, or your internet's a bit shabby, you can come up here and have a look and you know what's going to happen. I remember once making some lifelong friends outside the harbour master's office in France. We were all stuck there. It was blowing from the north and it was time to go home, and there was a load of Brits in the harbour, and we'd all meet in the morning. We'd go around there 8 o'clock when he put it up, and we'd have a look at it. Oh no, gloom and disaster, still blowing from the north. Wednesday looks better though, so what are we going to do today? Why don't we all go and have a spot of lunch? So that's what we did. And it was a great time actually, and we're still corresponding, most of us. It was a lovely time together. So there you go. A harbour master, not only does he tell you what's happening, but he brings you together. And that's a nice thing. These days, a lot of us rely on the telephone to put a hotspot up for the boat. And if we've got a good mobile signal, we can do our Wi-Fi that way, so long as we've got a suitable contract. But many of us are running out of bandwidth on the contract. So we think, well, maybe it would be so much better if the marina put out some Wi-Fi. And marinas do and they don't, and sometimes they say it's going to be all right and it's not. So really, if you're bothered about Wi-Fi and you need to get it from the marina, make sure it really works. Security, here's another thing. If you're in town and there's a lot of people hanging around, coming and going, maybe there's a bar there, security is really important, because otherwise, well, it can allow criminals in, and just people mooching around who don't know anything about boats. That's not very nice either. So, you know, security is important. But in other places, it doesn't matter at all. If you're out in the middle of the country and there's nobody there, well, why make the inconvenience of security? But if they've got it, it needs to work, and it needs to be easy for you, the berth holder, or the visitor to use. Some marina operators offer reciprocal facilities in other marinas that they own. Or sometimes they'll be part of a confederation of marinas that might spread all over Europe. And if you've got a facility like that, it's great. So if, when you go cruising, it's wonderful if you get it as part of the deal. You've already paid and you don't have to think about that. I love that. Not all marinas have fuel berths. If you've got a motorboat, this is absolutely critical. If your marina hasn't got a fuel berth, you need to have access to one close by. If you're in a sailing boat, it may be important if you've got a big boat with big fuel tanks and a big engine. If you've got a little boat, it's not so big of a problem. If you need a fuel berth, make sure there is one. My goodness me, look at this. You know, I'm old enough to remember when marina facilities were a disgrace. They were more like the corporations offering in Gasworks Creek, quite honestly. But this is, well, there's only one word, and it's luxury. Luxury is a word that's much abused, and people use it for everything these days, don't they? But you know, these little rooms here, which have everything you need, they are luxurious. If my bathroom was half as good, I'd be well pleased. And here's a thought. As a boat owner, this may or may not be important to you, but I'll bet it's important to your crew and particularly to your family. I know that my family appreciate it, and what they really like about something like this is the complete privacy. You come in here, you shut your door, you have a shower, you freshen up, do whatever you want to do before you go out and enjoy a meal in the restaurant. It's great.
Not everyone wants to keep their boat in a marina, but if the sheer convenience and potential for time saving suits you and your budget, there's something for everyone in most parts of the populated world these days. Don't sign up though until you've put in some hard soul searching on what really matters for you. Try and think a bit outside the box, then go for it.